Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of MSP Business School. I want to thank you for joining us today. As always, I'm here with my two favorite co-hosts. I've got Tim McNeil and Rob Rogers joining me today. How you doing, guys?
Doing well, sir. I'm your favorite of the two, though, right?
Yeah. Well, we've got a special bond, Rob. Yeah. But, we'll keep that for behind the scenes. But anyhow, how got things going up for you guys in Albany as we're coming out of this pandemic crisis?
It's awesome. We don't have to wear a mask anymore. It's the greatest thing in the world.
We went to our first live event, man, a first trade show, an ASCII event out in Houston. It was pretty cool.
And it was
just got back.
Surprisingly normal.
Yep. It was good stuff.
Very cool. It was very cool.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited to start getting back on planes. I've been bound to this 12 by 10 room for the better part of 15 months with a house full of women. I'll be open about it. I'm ready to go. With that, let's segue into what's really important today. And I want to welcome Jason from Mission Control to our stages, if you will, this afternoon. For those of you that don't know who Mission Control is, they provide outsourced NOC and HelpDesk services to the MSP community and certainly have their special brand and approach to how they do it today. But with that, I'd love to say, hey, welcome, Jason. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome,
I got
sir.
to be honest, I'm really jealous because I'm still in a lockdown position and you guys are experiencing life as normal, but we'll get there soon enough.
Are you still locked down, Jason?
This is our third lockdown, and you're talking about your walls. My walls are far too familiar for my life.
What metro are you in?
I'm in Toronto.
Oh, Toronto. Oh, yeah. So you guys have had a different set of rules versus
I thought
us
they
all.
just lifted it. I could have swore I heard did they go back into lockdown again?
So we started our third complete stay-at-home lockdown. It was either a month or two ago.
Oh, you're still okay. I thought you guys.
I think they're starting to talk about opening up, but I mean, it's been bad.
Yeah.
Well, we officially opened up on the 20th too, so
we're all getting there. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Soon enough.
Light at the end of the tunnel.
But anyhow, so Jason, thank you for joining us. I think one of the things that might help our listeners today is really understanding a little bit more about Mission Control, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you get started and what led you to taking on the task of building an outsourced help desk and NOC center.
My pleasure. I mean, it's a really core piece of me because, again, one of the things that I think makes us kind of different is that we actually were an MSP. We lived that life. Just to give you a bit of background, in 2003, we were a break-fix shop, right? We were doing hourly work in blocks of hours. 2010, we transitioned into a very traditional MSP. And going into the managed services world, we needed a PSA, we needed an RMM, we needed a documentation, we wanted for us to be able to grow and scale and to be able to sleep at night, we wanted a NOC and HelpDesk company. And we were the customer at that point, and we reached out to the companies that existed at the time. There weren't that many, but we spoke to or tried all of them. We literally spoke to every single one of them that was reputable. We tried the ones we felt comfortable in trying. The first one was a year or so arrangement. The next one was a few months. The next one was, you get the idea. When we finally had gone through what companies were out there and we simply ran out of options, it was like, what do we do? We decided we were going to bring it in-house and hire a whole bunch of people. And I think as part of that, we started just talking to other MSPs and say, do you find this to be a similar problem? Do you find that you need and it became a conversation that led to, well, maybe we can help. But the problem is that you can't be an MSP and support other MSPs. You'll end up in a conflict there. And so the concept of Mission Control was kind of born out of that. But, everything that we've done to build this business is from the MSP mindset perspective and point of view. Our SOPs, our protocols, everything is done with that in mind. Like even our senior level techs, they can't even get a job with us unless they've worked for an MSP at somewhere in their career, because we want to have that way of thinking in our team.
And that's critical because we have seen that it's tough to transition typical standard corporate mindset into that of the MSP, because when you really look at the corporate mindset, it's very siloed, right? People have a job and they usually you're responsible for this box in this corner, and that's
focused on that one thing.
And with the MSP, you've got to be highly adaptable and fluid in the process, and you sometimes got to take on tasks that are below your pay grade because right now the team needs you, right? And that's another critical piece. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Jason, from your seat.
Well, I completely agree with what you've said. I mean, that when we get in resumes and I see them, right, that the people who do well here, even if they're at, not the senior levels, when they work for the big enterprises, they're used to that very fixed box of what they're allowed to touch. They're sometimes paid quite well for that because they know they're not training those people to go further than that. And when anything goes beyond that scope, they have to escalate it to another team, which means they don't get that exposure, right? So one of the things that we're really proud of is that we grow our team members, but the senior level guys, they have to have that job experience because it's so critical to the way that they think and behave and make decisions.
That's beautiful. And that's really it, because if you can get some good, solid senior team members, that's really going to help guide the rest of the team as well, and really make the product probably stand forward and be something that people are rapid to adopt. Because I don't know, Rob and Tim, your thoughts on it, but I still feel some level of hesitance for whatever reason for people to let go of that level 1, level 2 support and push it outside. But yet when you look at the economics behind it, it almost screams for it.
Oh,
and the fact that everybody's struggling to find talent, right?
That's the biggest thing right there, trying to find the talent, right? So I mean, you're almost crazy not to outsource that. And it's no different than VCIO toolbox. It's no different than OSR manage. You outsource a fraction so that you become more efficient. There's no reason for an MSP not to do it. At least in part. I mean, it makes, like, I can see a certain MSP, like when they get to a certain size, to have full-time people on their help desk, but having at least that fractional for that gap between the next full-time hire, like it just makes sense to me, at least.
Yeah, what I've seen is at the level 1 area, you have the highest turnover, you have the longest recruiting process to get there, right? So your overhead for that position is going up, and you have the lowest billable for it, right? You're doing password resets and all the smaller stuff, so you're not billing high. So outsourcing it is starting to turn in. There is hesitancy, right? I totally see that.
Yeah.
But the benefit ratio is so high for that area. It's hard not to take that super serious right now if you're an MSP that's trying to grow and being stuck with the recruiting. It's brutal right now.
Especially if you're, even for the young MSPs where it's only 1 or 2 people, which, Jason, I don't know the whole breakdown of your average size client, but I would imagine there's a niche there for the smaller MSP where the people, the owners, they've got to do the selling, they are the janitor janitor / CEO and everything in between. So to be able to take that off their desk, I would imagine would be of a huge help.
Yeah.
The funny part is MSPs are used to teaching their clients to outsource to them.
Right?
Yeah. You've got that argument. But I agree. And I think we are really starting to experience, I think we're in it, but I don't think it's going to go away. In fact, I think it's going to get worse. We're experiencing a large shortage of talent in the IT space. And I think it's actually going to get worse as time goes on, which makes it very, very challenging, especially, you're right, for the small guys. Our client sizes, MSPs, typical sizes are anywhere from the 3 to 15 techs. When I say that, I mean full-time employed. But we still have a bunch of the 1s and 2s. We've got a bunch of the 20s and 25s, but there's a lot of the small guys, and they're always worried about the financial decision about hiring and the considerations around it. Like, what if this person doesn't work out? What if they leave? What if, right?
Yeah.
It's complicated. It's challenging.
Yeah.
Scaling is the most difficult thing for an early stage MSP to do, or even, mid stage. I used to always liken it to, steps. If you were always at least 1 employee ahead or 1 employee behind as you were trying to get the revenue to graduate. So if you looked at it from steps, and this is really good for audio, right? But you'd have these steps. It's not a linear line. So you'd always be at least a little either resource heavy or resource light. And there's very few times you lived in the sweet spot of we've got the right amount of people, for where we are. And, candidly, one of the reasons we looked at outsourcing help desk at one of the organizations I ran a number of years ago was strictly because we were like, look, level 1 is our biggest challenge point, as we said, for hiring. It's also our toughest point to get a solidified process and procedure to, because we don't really have the bandwidth to have true management in some spots overseeing a help desk. So how do we remove that and then become just at the escalation point or the on-site point. And it made a lot of sense for us. And, I really enjoyed that model. If I were to start an MSP again today, there's not even a chance I would do it like I did 2 times previous, which was building help desks. Not even a chance.
Jason, how are you handling the recruiting challenges right now? Because I would imagine you're facing the same thing as everybody else. I would just be curious, how do you handle that?
Yeah, for sure we're experiencing it. And the whole thing with the pandemic, I kind of look at it as, it's hurt a lot of people. It's also helped. Certainly IT is one of the industries that has thrived. For us, before this pandemic hit, we didn't even let people work from home. We had everybody side by side in our offices in Toronto. As I said, that's where I live, right? So everybody was here. Right now, I've got 2 offices. We were about to open a 3rd one, but I got 2 full offices empty, right? Everyone's working from home. But one of the things that happened was, how do you grow like that when everybody's working from home? And so we did expand, and we hired in places like Edmonton and Calgary and Vancouver and Halifax and in the US as well. We've hired in a few different cities in the US. And so we're going to continue to do that because, frankly, I don't know when life is going to be normal, and we don't know what's going to happen next year, et cetera. But I suppose for Mission Control, that does make it easier. It means there's a lot more resumes to go through. But now my talent pool isn't restricted to geographical local, right? I can go wider than that. And whereas Mission Control is entirely North American, there's still a lot of people in a lot of places. So as long as their English as a first language is a major thing, and they've got the skill sets, their communication's awesome, and they're good people, that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for. Whereas now, and I was, we can head into the conversation of whether in-home workers are better than being in the office. I have my opinion on that for sure.
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
I love the office, but it's certainly given way to now having people work remotely, which has its challenges, but it allows us to grow better.
Look, pre-pandemic, no way would I have not been in the office 5. Are you kidding me? Robb knows. I'm too much of a control freak. There's no chance, none. But hey, man, here we are. I moved to a different state. I work out of my house, and it is what it is, right? You get used to it. You adapt, and it's helped us. It's helped everybody scale. That's okay with having people in different areas.
Yep.
So what is your opinion on it, Jason? Where do you stand? I mean, are you seeing that you're comfortable with it now, or is it still something you wish you could bring everybody back into the
My preference, people are going to get, this is going worldwide right now. You're going to put me on the spot too.
I'm going to be your supporter because I know where you're going. And this is spoken as a guy that's got a distributed company. So I don't know if you guys want to get into it, but on our town halls, which we held monthly, this is probably the most commonly discussed topic of late. But like what to do when world goes back to normal. But I have never, ever, and I still don't believe that people work better at home than they do at the office. I think the office, they are far more productive. Even though you've got your water cooler conversations, I think for the control freaks like Tim and Jason, and for various other, for the management, they get to see a lot better. The visibility is easier. And I think from a collaboration perspective, you will never get the sort of output that you get from people working out of their home. There are always exceptions, and some people do work better that way. I don't believe it to be the majority.
So do you see it going back for you personally? Do you see it going back to 5 days a week, or is it going to be more of a split schedule?
We had we hold monthly social night dinners for our team members. So it's a staff member thing, virtual, obviously, because everyone's still at home, and no work talk allowed. And I hop on just to say hi, and I hop off because that's for the staff member. But one staff member tried to pin me down. This was just this past Friday. I said, so what are you thinking about for office life? And I slid the question. So now she sees this. I'm in trouble. But I feel like there's definitely those, myself included, that if given the option to go into the office, even if it's 2 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever, they will take it. Some will, when given the option, they'll say, no, thanks, I'm comfortable at home. And some will race to get out of their walls. And even some of those that will race out to get out of their walls, once they realize that they could have stayed home a couple of days, they'll choose to do that. I feel Mission Control will be a hybrid on an availability basis for their staff. But as I said, we've hired people that are not here now. So either I give them an office or they stay at home, right? So it's complicated.
It is. It's very complicated, you know. And one of the things, it's a weird dynamic, right? I mean, it opens up more labor pool because you have some people who don't have the ability to go into the office. They have to pick up the kids at 3:30. They have to do those kind of things. So you open up your labor pool a little bit, but then the culture shifts, right? Because you have people who aren't next to each other with body language and being able to talk to each other and having that social interaction, which is huge. And Zoom's great and all, but you know, being close to people and having those, you know, interactions, that makes the culture, which makes the company, in my opinion.
But I'll throw the devil's advocate here.
Here we go.
While I am a supporter of office life, obviously I run a distributed company, and it's never not going to be because of the nature of what we do. But what I've also seen is a couple different things. One, as much as there's collaboration, there's also a problem that exists for some of our workers, the interrupt pattern, right? So when we're working in the office, it was really easy for me, especially when I was playing the role of boss in my previous world, and I had my help desks. It was really easy for me to stop anything and feel that the minute I needed information, I would just walk in there and stop everybody with what they're doing and get the information I need. So, you know, one of the nice parts about remote that I've seen is it makes me consciously think about when I'm going to go contact somebody. And then they've got the ability to tell me that they're tied up at that moment. I have to wait. Now that could be a Brian problem. Don't get me wrong. A Timmy problem.
Yeah.
The second thing though is, you know, I also see that there's certain skill sets that still aren't mature enough yet in their professional development to really be able to effectively work remotely, right? Now, when we talk about somebody like you, Jason, I could see where you would sit on your posture here, because you've got a lot of early stage probably employees, people that are still level one by nature and might have under, you know, 5 or 6 years in the workplace, but have had some experience in MSP. Those folks need to be guided, and they need that collaboration because they need the support, which is a key thing that you can't get in the office. Then there's other roles in all of our businesses that were just tailor-made for outside. You know, first of all, the old adage, we don't want to see our salespeople. So
that's
you know,
right.
That's a perfect example of where it works. You know, if you've got some of your leadership, they can be in a hybrid format very easily because sometimes they need downtime away from their employees where they can't have that reverse interrupt pattern available to do it. But it's wild because we never really thought of remote. You know, remote's lived for 10, 15 years, but really it was tough to get it adopted. And now that it's been adopted, everybody's wrestling with where should we return it back to normal and where should we keep it going?
Are you kidding? Pre-COVID, my wife's company, they were forcing people to work from home a day a week, and most people were fine with it. But some pushed back. They were like, "No, I want to be in the office." And now they're like, "Yeah, we're probably not coming back for like another 10 to 12 months."
Yeah.
Just recently said this. Like it's crazy.
My little dive into corporate and United Healthcare. I was a manager of 132 people. None of them were in my office.
That's amazing. Jason, you had mentioned something earlier. You mentioned two things. One was your cultural improvement with having a monthly meeting for your sales for your entire team that you weren't allowed to be in.
Right.
And then you said something about a town hall. Can you tell me a little bit more about those two things?
Sure. Well, I mean, so one of the things that I recognize personally is, again, my walls are far too familiar and not seeing people. I'm a very, very social person. I like seeing friends and seeing employees and seeing colleagues and seeing vendors and all these people, right? And for our team members, the most important thing that I can do is have them have a great work-life balance and to keep social and keep that in what I loved about the in-office culture, right? Very work hard, play hard kind of group. Like we used to have arcade nights and game nights and beer nights and all kinds of nights just to keep people social. The problem, of course, is people want to separate from the screen, but we created one night a week. The company pays for their dinner and drinks that they order in. We ask, you know, if they prefer to order from local, great, but we don't really care. It's more just about company sponsors the night, so they're incentivized to show up, come, turn on your cameras, be with your colleagues, talk about anything other than work. And I'll typically pop in, say a quick hello, just check and make sure things are working well on the Zoom, and I pop off because that's really their time.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. That's not what the night's about. So we do that for them.
That's amazing. A great idea.
Yeah, and we've thought about, you know, tossing out other ideas. The problem is that every event that we were trying to do keeps people at their screens, right? And part of it is getting away from it.
Getting away.
Speaking of the town halls, one of the topics that came up on our last call, which was probably one of the best topics we ever had, was incentive, or it's not incentivizing, but asking staff to go on breaks virtually together, right? Like you used to have people that would, this is how it was described, as people used to get up as a pair, as a trio, they get up from their desk, they'd all walk over to the local coffee shop, they grab their coffee, they walk back. They got to talk on their way, they got to talk on their way back, and it wasn't necessarily work related, but they just got away from their desk for a time. And the idea was thrown out is, why doesn't that exist now? Just because, you just call each other on Teams or on the phone, for goodness sake, as you guys walk around or go for a walk around the block or whatever it is that your break time is. But it became a nice way of doing that in the virtual world where, and again, I really hope life returns to normal really soon and we don't need these problems. But again, even from Mission Control, if I've got a staff member in Edmonton, a staff member in Calgary, and a staff member in Toronto that want to go on a 15-minute break at the same time, if that's helpful for them, for their mental health and sanity, great. So anyways, the town hall is what they are. Once a month, we hold an MSP channel wide. Any MSP globally can attend this thing, open season. The topics are anything. They're sales, marketing, M&A, work from home, back to the office, stuff like taking breaks, every and anything that an MSP would ever want help on. And it's very much an open forum. We have a facilitator that makes sure that things keep moving. But I mean, it's very engaging because one MSP throws out a question and then you have a whole bunch of people giving ideas and it becomes organically awesome. And so we do that once a month. We've got a special guest speaker in the sales management area coming this month. It's on June 8th. It happens to be Tim.
Yeah.
But the town halls have been a fantastic success. They're growing every month. I recommend any MSP listening, just join in. There's no obligation. Just listen and enjoy and participate.
So it's not just your clients. Nope. It's anybody can jump in.
It started off as mission control partners. And it was like, why are we restricting this? The more ideas, the better, as long as it's moderated. Let's get everybody in here. Last month, we had more than 150 MSP business owners on this thing. It was fantastic.
Wow. So how can people sign up to that?
I wanted them in many hundreds.
How can people sign up to that?
We'll make sure they get the link, but essentially we post it on social media. We send out the email blast, try and make sure everybody knows. It's just a registration link on Zoom. It's a big Zoom.
Fantastic.
Yeah, very cool.
Brian, can we put that on the card for the?
Of course we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Beautiful.
It was our way of really giving back to the community. The information that people are tossing back and forth is just really, really helpful to others. And that's kind of the idea.
Jason, we're starting to come to the end of our time together. What I think we haven't really talked about, and if we could take a minute or two before Timmy goes into the speed round with us today, just, give us a feel for the breadth of services that an MSP can subscribe to you. Is it strictly just help desk at the level 1, level 2, level 3 level? Can people subscribe just to the senior level, junior levels? Do you have a methodology? Where's your sweet spot so our listeners can understand how to best engage with you?
Thank you. Very specifically, well, I should say very generally. So we are doing services for NOC. When I think of NOC, I think of the support for servers and network appliances. We've got our help desk services, which is really the user support and user equipment support. We've got dispatch services, which when you think of help desk, it's taking a call, making a ticket, doing the work. Dispatch is where you don't actually want us to do the work. You want us to take the call, make the ticket, hand it off to the MSP. And we do project services. Think of Exchange Migrations to Office 365. But the entire concept and scope of what we're doing is to assist an MSP in extending their scalability and serviceability to their clientele. A lot of our partners use this for after hours, evenings, weekends, holidays. Some use this for daytime overflow. Some use this full 24/7. We're all about just expanding and acting as an extension of the MSP. That's what we do.
Beautiful.
Very cool.
All right, good. So if you are, if you're thinking about this, and I think MSPs really should think about the things that don't classically fit into their mold or where they might be struggling on finding resources in their geo, I would, really reach out to Jason and see where they might be able to help, because this is a critical problem that's happening out in the marketplace today. And when you start talking about some of those softer skills, I think those are ones that MSPs sometimes forget can be outsourced. So, with that being said, I guess, Tim, you've got a couple questions that we can bounce into, right?
Here we go.
Yeah. So 5 questions, very easy. Just first thing you think of. A couple multiple choice, couple off the cuff. First one is talk, text, or Teams?
Talk.
Okay. Music, movies, or TV?
Movies.
Okay. All right. What age do you want to retire?
Wow. 54.
Okay. All right.
And I will say I'm pretty heavy into working, so I don't see me stopping.
Never, yeah,
That's
never see
pretty
it.
much every
That's
answer.
the
Yeah,
standard
that's usually the answer is I'm never really gonna retire.
I'm going to stick with 54 though.
Yeah.
We all have hopes,
Yeah.
goals.
Mac or Windows?
Windows.
Okay. If you could do anything outside of tech, what would it be?
I don't know. I'm a big sports guy. I love sports. Huge hockey fan, but I would say I'm a big fan of a lot of sports. And I would say if I could do something relating to sports and the enjoyment of sports, and whether that be, I mean, there's so many different areas of that, but just in and around sports, I think would be where home would be.
That would be cool. Man, Tavares had a bad hit the other day, huh? Whew.
That was I when it happened,
It was brutal.
I prayed for
Brutal.
his health.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked so bad.
It did.
Thankfully, they're saying it's just a bad concussion,
Yeah.
which he'll recover from. But I can't believe, and it was so fast, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Crazy. That was nuts.
on the positive,
Anyway,
the Leafs are
yeah.
up 3-1 in the series. So
Yeah. They got it. They're finally they're
stop it.
they
Finally,
don't well they don't have to play Boston. So you're safe. You're safe
Yes.
for now.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
possible round 3, I suppose.
Yeah,
but
it is.
let's get out of round 1 first, because they haven't
Yeah.
done that in a whole bunch of years.
All right. All right. Well, Jason, we thank you very much for being on with us today. For anyone that is looking to get in touch with Jason, we will be including his LinkedIn profile with the podcast, and we will include the link for the town hall. So we encourage you to go and listen to that. It's a free open forum for everybody. And also this episode will be on mspbusinessschool.com and anywhere you get your podcast. Jason, we really appreciate you being on. Do you have any closing thoughts before we break for today?
If you're an MSP and you're looking to expand your business and scale, Mission Control is fully North American. We're fully integrated with your PSA and your tool stack. We're hardworking, good people. Give us a shout. If for nothing else, please do come to the town halls. I think you get a lot of benefit. And guys, thank you so much for having me. This is a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You guys
Good.
are awesome.
Glad you
Thanks
did.
for coming
coming
on.
out.
All right.
And look forward to talking to you again soon.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Stay safe.